No, yeah, of course.
That's my face.
That's how my face looks.
So I'm going to do the countdown so that we can sync everything again. So ready? 3, 2, 1, start.
Energize.
Okay, so that's goals going.
Energize.
What the fuck did you just say, Dan?
Love it. Energize.
Oh, the theme carries on.
It's morphin' time.
All right. So I guess we'll start with intro.
So the number sets to the street.
So I'll do the same thing we did last time, where it'll just be like, "Welcome to the podcast, blah blah blah," with name, hello, blah blah, and I'll just finish that off, and then that's that segment done. Sorry. Hi guys, and welcome to episode 3 of Twilight Wanderings with me, Barney. Also, I have with me Alistair.
Hello.
And also Dan.
Hi guys.
In this episode, we're going to be talking about our pre-release experiences, as well as a little bit of chatting about some recent AGP results, and probably also going to touch on some tournaments that we're heading to in the near future. So, hope you enjoy the show.
Whoop whoop.
Whoop whoop. Okay, cool. So, section 1, we're going to talk about pre-releases, right? So,
yeah,
I'll kick that off, and then we just go from there.
Yep.
So, as some of you probably know, it was pre-release weekend this weekend. Unfortunately, due to some scheduling clashes and players at our local store not being able to make it, we ended up running our pre-release on Monday. So me and Dan attended that. Unfortunately, Alistair, you had to work, which was pretty lame. So you didn't actually get to play, but me and Dan got to play. We ended up with, I think was it 14 or 15 players, Dan?
It was 15 players, so it was 14 registered. One guy turned up late, leading to some buys, as we'll get on to later.
Okay, yeah, so it's a pretty reasonable turnout. We had a lot of fun. I know that Dan, you went 3-1, losing in the finals, and ended up snagging yourself a lovely Maribel playmat.
Yes, I did. It was wicked. It was good. The final was quite close, but yeah, I ended up losing in that. But due to basically because I had the bye round 1, and then my opponents, one of them went 3-1 as well, and the other guy went 2-1. Basically, my tiebreakers were really good, so I still got the playmat, which is sweet.
Yeah, because me and mine and Dan's mutual housemate Mark as well, we both went 3-1 and ended up coming 3rd and 4th and not getting playmats, and it was all very sad.
Yep.
Dan's tiebreakers were too strong.
Yep.
So do you want to talk us through your deck, Dan? Like what did you open in your pool?
Yeah. One thing, just cut in. If you the playmat, as you might, if you've seen one, there's a little Precia hidden on the corner of Maribel's shoulder.
Oh,
So
really?
I wonder if that's actually on the card art.
No, it's on the card as well. Yeah, she's like riding him. It's super sick.
Yeah. So I've just spotted that now. So that's sweet.
If you read the flavor text on Maribel, it's like I'm pretty sure it's something Precia's saying.
Huh.
Oh, I see. So like they're like little mates.
Yeah, because they're teaming up
That's really cool.
to mess up Valentina is the plot, as part of the plot for this set.
Oh, sweet. That's really cool.
Dope. It's pretty cool.
So yeah,
I like the
what spices?
Hopefully you can fit that in quite nicely somewhere. I just wanted to point out the corners of the playmat while I had it in my hand. But yeah, carry on.
Okay, so what spicy stuff did you open in your pool down? Was it really powerful, or did you just like outskill people?
So the pool was powerful. There's no doubt about that. The deck helped me a lot. Mainly through the one copy of Izanage, Keeper of the Seal, which I think is probably the best limited card in the set for this. But going into it, I thought it might be Athena, the Titan that pumps herself. Well, does 1 damage to each you and them, and gets +2/+2 whenever you get dealt damage permanently. But so I opened it in Izanagi. He did really well. The rest of my deck had some good things, but overall it was a bit below par around it. However, having the powerful cards to go to when I needed meant that it was pretty good, and I would have, if I was offered this at the start, I would have happily picked it. There were some cool things in the pool that didn't make the cut as well, which is always nice. So there was a full Precia, which is
Dope.
she looks wicked. Unfortunately, I couldn't put red into my deck. There's some other cool stuff, but yeah, the actual deck itself had a lot of. So basically, everything cost 2 or less will, apart from I think there's 2 3-drops. So there's a Timekeeper Elf and a Demonic Commander. Oh, and a Tristan the Knight of Sorrow as well. They're my 3 3-drops. There's Izanagi at 6, and everything else is cheaper. So there's some luminescent bamboo bullets. For those who don't know, that destroys a tapped guy, and you can kick it if you play 1 moon and another one, and you can then destroy 2. My only 1 moon source was my Moon Breeze Elf. And I found out basically whenever I didn't have that card in my hand at the start, I would pretty much mulligan away all my other cards. Because if I ever had that on the field, compared to not having it on the field, my deck did so much better. The other standout card was Timekeeper Elf. Just getting to be on the stage of the game where you can cast 2 spells earlier just did loads of work for me. But yeah, most of it, I played against a green-white ramp deck first, which had a Maribel and a Alice the Titan in it. But I basically had to go for it game 1 and hope he didn't have a counter spell up, because he had the mana to play the Seal of Wind and Light to stop my Izanagi, but he didn't have that, fortunately. Got that down, exiled his board, and he just couldn't answer it. Later on, he attacked a Seal of Bamboo to it, which is the one that basically means your guy can't attack. However, he just couldn't fight through it, and I eventually killed him. Actually, I made him run out of cards. I decked him in the end because it just became a stall because his Titan couldn't beat through my guy. Then game 2, we were running out of time actually, so it ended in turns. But I just got my Izanagi down and just kind of killed him with it. He was quite new to the game, but it was good. He's going to get there. That's James. That was pretty wicked.
So was your deck sort of more ramp orientated? Was it aggro, or was it? Because from the sounds of it, you had quite a lot of early drop creatures. So were you like sort of using those to keep you in the game early and then just slamming your Izanagi late to win, or were the earlier creatures more instrumental in like your victories? Do you have like any other important cards lower down your curve?
Not really, to be honest. It was a lot of like they're just creatures. So I made sure I had a lot of creatures. And basically the way I was winning was either in Izanagi, I had 2 Kaguya's Premonitions, so those cards were incredibly good if you have Moon, which I managed to do. So every time I had my Moon Breeze Elf, I do have 2 Kaguya's Premonitions, so I'm likely to have at least seen 1 at some point. And that card was doing lots of work to make me just some really big men, because people were playing.
That's the 1 light instant that gives a creature +2/+4 and then prevents damage and puts counters on if you awaken it.
Yeah, it's got awakening.
That card just looked really powerful when I saw you playing it.
Yeah, so that card multiple times got me like a 20/20 guy who was just a common. Some like one of my wolves or maybe Servant of the Sacred Moon. Just these kind of generic cards that they kind of, because I had lots of creatures, they were winning games by just having more creatures than the opponent. But in general, it was a lot of like waiting, still wait a bit more, then eventually cast Izanagi when they've put their really powerful stuff on the board. I think that's why I won quite a lot of games, was just being incredibly patient and waiting until my opponent basically overcommitted to the board and then removed his 3 big guys permanently forever. So in my round 3 match, because I got by round 2, I was playing a guy called Mark, our housemate, and there was one time where my Izanagi had his Izanagi and another Alice's Titan underneath it, which is like pretty crazy. He had a counter spells in his hand that I managed to get one of them out by using my own counterspell but not making it unchaseable, because I knew that to win the game I needed him to resolve his guy, but I also needed him to not have a counterspell. So I played my counterspell, deliberately not making it unchaseable, and then he makes his, makes it unchaseable, which leaves him tapped out with those 2 creatures on the battlefield, which is kind of how I managed to exile both of them.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So yeah, but like a lot of my games are playing green, wind light versus wind light decks. my deck had some darkness in it, which is pretty useful. Those cards basically for Lilith and Demonic Commander, neither of which I really saw very much. However, they both looked like really powerful cards. I just never got the opportunity to cast them.
The wind light decks seem to be pretty prevalent amongst the people doing well at the pre-release. I know that bar me, the entire top 4 was wind light decks, and you all had a copy of Izanagi, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you all had an Izanagi, and then Mark and Luke both had the Alice, the 5-mana Alice.
As well. Yeah.
That mirror, as an aside, looked absolutely miserable when both players had an Alice.
When both had an Alice, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not too bad, I don't think, because they can both kill each other. Like, the Alice can smash into the Alice. It was the fact that both of the Alice decks I played against had the +8/+8 card that comes back from the graveyard attached to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that enchantment's, like, super foolish, because there's no... Because, like, the card in Magic Rancor, you can have a way of dealing with it, because if it doesn't end up on the creature, you can get it into the graveyard. But that one just is whenever it goes into a graveyard, it goes into your hand, and it's just so tedious.
It's still from your field. It's still like Rancor.
If you kill the guy,
hit the field to actually get put back in.
Oh, does it? Okay, so you can kill
the
creature, and it just falls into the graveyard.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad. But like I saw, because it seemed pretty good in all of the green-white decks, where while they were waiting to cast their powerful bombs, could just like stick that on a Moonbreeze Elf and just go to town.
Yeah, that happened to me a few times. I was getting beaten up by that.
That's what I was worried about when I remember mentioned this interaction last week. I was interested to see like the numbers of cards. I know somebody was Tom Brown, one of the UK judges, was posting about how the print runs been a bit weird pre-releases. So I think that's maybe why you saw like a lot of the same cards.
Yeah, quite possibly.
How that impacts drafting might be like a bit awkward.
Yeah, well, it was kind of interesting because
still bigger than drafting, I guess. Sorry.
I'm not sure how badly the print run actually affected the sealed pools, because there was a huge amount of variation in the sealed pool. So like my sealed pool, for example, was vastly different to most of the other players, and then I played in one of the rounds against a guy whose deck was almost 50% rares, because he opened so many, which is actually a really interesting sort of divergent from how Magic works, where you're at like 6 to maybe 7 if you open a foil rare out of your 6 packs, whilst in Force of Will you're looking at...
You can actually end up with a lot more.
Well, yeah, you can end up with a maximum of 18, which is...
Or something if you get more colour and stuff.
Yeah, once you get onto like land and regalia slots, and it's pretty foolish.
That the trend that you've had with like the green whites doing well is more to do with how individually powerful those cards are in sealed more specifically than it would be in draft, because sealed's like more about bombs rather than like it's really hard to pull off something like synergistic stuff.
Also, one important thing to notice, like most of the good red cards and the good blue cards, well actually no, not the good, I should rephrase that, the rare slots for red and rare slots for blue are like, a lot of them are either the observer related cards, so you have the future, the past and the present cards, which are exiling cards from your library, which then you need other cards to do things with, which while that's really going to be fun and constructed, and you might just about be able to pull it off in draft, when you're not picking all those cards, you're unlikely to ever do it in sealed. And the same can be said for the blue ones, because all the blue cards really are like involve looking at the top of your library. And it's not every single one, but most of them are like stuff like Drill Sergeant. I know you had 2 of those, did you, Barney?
Yeah, I'm going to move on to talk about my deck in a second, because my deck was actually really quite interesting compared to what most people were doing. So, I agree with what you're saying. Is like because of the way the set's been designed, so that you have all of these rulers that have very sort of build around me cards within them. You get a bunch of sort of support cards for those for constructed that are not necessarily as good in limited, and you need like quite a high critical mass of them to make them good. I think it's
Yeah.
especially true of the red cards. But I think
Yeah.
the blue cards it's less true of. So like moving on to my deck, I didn't open any of the super powerful bomb rares. Like the most powerful thing I was playing was the Lucifer, which is the 2 double darkness 900 flyer that makes them banish a resonator when it enters the battlefield, which is really powerful. But in limited, it's less good because everyone's playing slightly worse creatures than you would in constructed. So you've got a lot of pretty mediocre 1 will, 2 will, 3 will creatures in play. So odds are that you're not very likely to get something good with the banish effect. But my pool was really weird because the majority of the rares I opened were the sort of Shion style cards. So I had a Shion's Hymn and 2 Drill Sergeants were the main rares from my pool. And the problem with Drill Sergeant is because you don't have a way to manipulate the top of your library in the limited environment, you sort of have to rely on building your deck around having a high density of creatures. So the problem with this then occurred that I didn't actually have another color combination with my blue cards that would provide me with enough creatures to just play 2 colors. So what ended up happening was I ended up playing water and darkness and then splashing in some light resonators to fill up my slots.
Did you do the one light stone? Get yourself always get that turn 1, so you had that, or was that not a thing you were doing?
So I was playing the Clockwork Ruler, and it was kind of awkward because I have in my stone base I had the Jewel Stone that taps for darkness and for moon.
Okay, yes, that seems
so
pretty powerful with the moon synergies in the set.
The really tedious thing being that the moon synergies in my deck were all on my white splash. So even if I searched up my white producing source, I could never get the full effect out of the cards in terms of awakening until I got a hold of the Moonstone. So most of the time what was happening is I would draw my opening hand and mulligan away all of the light cards and just try and get a handful of water and darkness spells, lead off with the Jewel Stone, and then hope to draw a light stone later on.
I
So
see.
I could eventually cast my spells, because all of the main cards I was splashing for were the Angel of Wisdom Cheridin and the Crescent Moon Magician. So they're very powerful if you can cast them, but you actually want to be casting them slightly later on in the game.
Yeah. You want to wait until they've got the card in that you can kill with it, or even wait for the better cards to come out.
Yeah, but my deck was mostly creatures though. So it's like the only non-creature spells I was playing were Space-Time Anomaly, Space-Time Collapse, and Shion's Hymn. Just because the cards were so powerful that it felt like it would be wrong to not play them. But the deck had some interesting synergies. Like I did win a lot of games just by making a Drill Sergeant, attacking, flipping a creature, making all my creatures huge, and just because that was one of the advantages I had versus everyone else. Is everyone else was kind of setting up with their mediocre creatures to eventually cast a 5 or a 6 mana rare, whilst I was just going 1 mana resonator, 2 mana resonator, 1 will resonator, 2 will resonator, Drill Sergeant, attack you until you fall over. I got to the deck had some sweet synergies as well. It wasn't just curve out. So I had a copy of the Executioner, which is absolutely amazing. That card is so good.
It's really, really good.
For those of you who don't have the card text in front of you, it's a 1 darkness 300/300, but it has stealth. The condition for its stealth flip being you have to control a darkness stone, and a resonator has to be put into your opponent's field this turn, at which point you can flip it over, and it will destroy a resonator with cost 3 or less. So one of the synergies I had in my deck with that card was I could set it face down in the chance standby area, let it kill a guy, and then I had the 2 mana Were-Rabbit, which returns creature CMC 2 or less to its owner's hand. So what I do is set my Executioner, flip it over, kill their thing, and then Were-Rabbit the Executioner back to my hand and play it face down again.
Nice.
Which meant you could just like recycle that guy over and over again, especially when your Were-Rabbits were much less relevant. But yeah, like, I was really happy with my deck because I looked at it and it just looked like an absolute pile. It turned out pretty alright.
Yeah, from what I saw, you were like a lot of your wins you'd like fought through and like managed to do things like sort of get there. So you'd have to like bounce a guy, play your Execution again, then use him again, which is a lot more. It is a lot more involved than some of the games that I was in, where it was just like all it was trying to do was like find the optimal time to play your rare.
Yeah, like all of my games felt super grindy and like trying to get the absolute maximum value out of my cards, which was awesome because that's the kind of cards I like playing, is like the really grindy resource management sort of battles. It did get a bit tedious at times because once it got past turn 6 and people could reliably start just slamming their rares into play, it got a lot more difficult to deal with them.
Yes.
I did have some tedious games where one of the cards that was really good against me, for example, was Wall of Wind, because I'm trying to curve out, and the effect that really punishes curving out is the mana tax effect, and I just got absolutely tricked in my first round when I tried to go 3 mana spell, get it countered, and then follow up with another 3 mana spell, because I thought, I'll get the counter spell out of his hand and that'll be fine, and then cast my Drill Sergeant with my remaining 3 mana and got Wall of Winded, and I just lost the game almost instantly because.
I was going to ask about that.
That card.
How many Force Spikes did you get?
So I think Luke's deck had 2 counter spells and a Force Spike. How many counter spells did you end up with, Dan?
So I had one of the counter spell one, which is the Seal of Wind and Light, so the one green, one white spell that's counter any spell, can be chased for a moon to make it uncounterable. I had one of those. All 3 of my opponents, James, my first opponent I played, didn't have one of those, but both my other opponents had one of those, and then I know that Luke then had a second. Both Luke and Mark had the Force Spike, which is the Wall of Wind, as we're calling it, which makes you pay 1 more to cast a spell. But yeah, I had to play around those all the time, and if you make a mistake against that, you like almost lose the game straight away. So if you tap out for anything big. So there's one turn against Luke in the finals where I think he's got it, because I've seen him use it against someone before, and he's got that sort of look on his face of when you know someone's got a counterspell. So the optimal play would have been to play Lilith, where X equals 6. So tap all 8 stones. Which is where I think I'd actually need to bring up. I should have played more than 8 stones, just because the games went so long that having something your ruler can do would have been really useful. Just because more stones is always good. So I could have done that and then killed his Izanagi with the effect, and got all my stuff back, and then had this Lilith in play. However, I knew that would get Force Spike, so I had to like kill his Izanagi a different way with Bones. Then it got back my Izanagi, which I couldn't cast obviously, because if I did, I would Force Spike it. So I then have to play 3 creatures, including Lilith for X equals 0 for the Awakening cost. Survive that. Unfortunately, a turn later, he draws a Maribel and just kills me with Maribel. However, I think that was probably my best play of the weekend. Was just like having to playing around that all the time. And later on, I threw an irrelevant spell with no mana left, and he just countered it, which was good. Well, it was just kind of gratifying to see that he had it all along, so I wasn't just like deliberately taking the less than most efficient line. I was actually playing around something, which was good. But yeah, that card, when you get to go on the play and just be like, green, yours, or Windstone, yours. Just so tedious.
The other card that was actually surprisingly impressive was the 1 and a green addition field, that when it enters the battlefield, draw a card, and then when any effect targets a resonator you control, you can sack it to cancel it.
Yeah.
That card was really good for like dealing with your Izanagi. Because I know that Mark was playing 2 of those, and it was like I saw in his match against JT, he managed to get 2 of them down and then play his Izanagi. It's just like almost unbeatable.
Yeah, if you had the deck with all the rares, that's the card you wanted because it just protects your really powerful things. So if you're playing against an opponent with normal creatures, like sacking the enchantment won't really be worth very much. But when you've got like a really powerful card that has to be done, your opponent has to fight through it. Just not having it so that card can't die is insane. It's like that card was really good in a sealed format. I think it's worse in draft as you're less likely to have something huge you're trying to build up to and then protect. But it does that job of protecting the card incredibly well.
Yeah, it looked very impressive. I think it was good because for the most part, the decks that people were playing were very slow. Like I was the only real aggro deck in the format, bar the guy who was playing Athena singular.
Oh right,
I think it was Reese. His deck was pretty aggressive. But other than that, it was mostly Moonbreeze, Elf, and other cards decks, which that card admittedly fits into quite nicely. And also, if there are more effects that are targeting, because there weren't a huge amount of effects that killed stuff targeted. Like there were some, but a lot of them were irrelevant. Like I was doing things like whenever someone played that card against me, I was like trying to bait them into sacking it to like were-rabbit triggers and stuff, because then I could actually cast relevant spells.
Yes.
But yeah, the pre-release was super fun. The new super rare foiling is so nice. The full arts.
Both full arts, they're not just. I mean, the super rare one is really nice because that's the one that is especially got the sort of the logo hidden within the background, and they've like amplified effects on the card. So if you ever get to see a full art Maribel, that card is really beautiful because they've like done different foiling effects on different parts of it. If you look really closely. However, yeah, it is really nice, and it's good on the rares as well. It's not to the same level, but it is still really nice.
Yeah, it's just a really good job, and it's also really nice to see the designers of the game taking on board the community's suggestions, because I know that there are a lot of people who weren't big fans of the original sort of stamping process covering elements of the text. So now that's been completely eliminated with this new style, and they've done a really good job of making the cards relatively easy to read as well still, because I know that that's been an issue for other people's, like other games in the past, making their full arts and having them just be unreadable or not having text on them at all and causing confusion amongst newer players. So I think they've done it in pretty much the perfect way. So yeah, that's a lot, and like obviously they look absolutely gorgeous as well.
Yeah, they do look good.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on the pre-release? Apart from how sad that Alistair is that he couldn't attend.
Go on, sorry.
I was gonna say overall it was really, really good fun. I think a lot of people enjoyed the set. From chatting to people enjoyed it. Especially as we had a lot of new players and they enjoyed it too, which is important to like your first touch of the game being really exciting. However, yeah, it was really good. I fully enjoyed it, and thank you to Andy for running it and putting on such a good event. It did a really good job, as usual.
Any comments, Alistair, on the pre-release that you didn't get to play?
I was interested in.
Wait, who's rustling? Stop that.
I won't make that noise again.
Was anybody playing money? Did anybody manage to put together the like red remove deck?
No, it was really sad. So JT had the Observer and some of the components, but the problem was when we were building his deck, the green and white cards were just so much better.
The Observer seems completely unplayable, but yeah. Like being able to trigger him unlimited seems like to like actually flip him seems pretty. Yeah.
Yeah, like
By which I mean, you're drawing 5 cards. You're going to draw a card for each turn. To actually trigger him, you need to be literally milled out or something stupid like that.
yeah, like I
Well,
had
not
an
necessarily milled
interesting
out, but this is what you're
Guild
thinking top to. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, I had an interesting game against the Guild deck,
Okay.
because that card's pretty absurd if they ever get to flip it.
Uh-huh.
So, like, the sort of thing that was in my favour for that match was that my opponent's only source of moon was the Kaguya Regalia.
Sure.
So he ended up tapping out for some other effects that required moon. And I ended up using my space-time collapse to kill his Regalia so that he couldn't ever flip his Gill, which was pretty spice. But yeah, like the Gill in Limited seems pretty powerful if they ever get to go off with it.
Okay.
Observer seemed pretty bad, and Kaguya seemed pretty good because she fixes your mana.
So I don't think Observer's playable. However, I think that like maybe if you can like at all in draft or constructed. But I was more curious to see how like the pools worked out, whether there were enough common and commons there to actually make the kind of like remove synergies any good.
I see. I think if we were, I think next week when we draft it, we'll almost certainly see someone pull off the red deck with the, because it's all about getting like the wizard and the commons and uncommons that you need for the, so like the dragon. There were lots of people playing the dragon, and the dragon looks amazing, the 2-mana one.
Right. Yeah.
So I think if you can get enough of the cards, then you can probably pull off that deck. But Dan, you're still muted.
The problem is being out before having a way to win before you deck yourself. Because like the thing is, you can get all these set up, but it's how far into the setup you can go before it's like you don't have enough time to kill them once you've gone off. So that's kind of what worries me a bit about the deck. That is, even when it works, is there a window of like opportunity where you have enough cards removed, but enough cards still in your library, along with the amount of time to finish off the game?
Yeah. I was curious. I think you're gonna like. Yeah. Oh.
Like overall, I think the limited environment was fun, and as we were saying in last week's episode, I think once they sort of work towards a new world order style of doing things in terms of rarity, and also thinking about how the set will actually play in a limited environment, because I think currently they're thinking mostly about constructed. I think once we get to that stage, this game will be really, really fun to draft. Obviously, it's still got some growing pains in terms of set design and how the actual limited environment works. But yeah, pre-releases were super fun. Really looking forward to playing some more of those again, and also just really looking forward to drafting the set coming next week. So we'll talk about that with you guys probably in the next episode briefly once we've had a bash at that. So that'll be fun. I imagine you'll like most of the people listening will be super giddy, cracking into their packs for release weekend.
Does the set release on the Friday or the Saturday?
The set release is on the Friday, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yes. Set releases on Friday.
I might get a chance to play some constructed.
Fan dabby dozy. Right, well, I think that pretty much wraps up our segment about the pre-releases. So, shall we move on to the next section?
Maybe quickly.
That was just my connector. I'm about to go and get a drink.
Yeah, I know. I mean, quickly. Do we want to make predictions on what we think the draft format's going to be like before we actually do it, or do you think that's just overkill?
I think that's overkill. We've done plenty on limited. It's about a good 30 minutes worth of.
Yeah. Personally, I think it's going to be crap, by the way. I think it's going to be fun and interesting for the first few times. And it'll be like fun and interesting the first time somebody does the like Shion or tries Observer. But I think it's just going to be a bomb heavy, like all about can you get rid of their bomb before
it look like
How much is your Dark Ritual worth, Stan? Is it like $1?
Yeah, it's like retarded. It's because it's not Dark Ritual. Because Dark Ritual doesn't sit and
It's
play and go
repeat-
again, again, again. Yeah. Because
Right.
it's a world. It goes in for a green,
You can
and you just sack a green, throw a green guy out of your hand, get 3 mana.
bounce with reflect.
You can isn't it a world?
It's a resonator.
Is it a resonator?
Yeah, it's a
Wow.
creature.
Is it like 2 toughness or something stupid?
No.
It's a 0/1.
Wait, has he even got an activate to destroy something?
Yeah, it's sick.
Oh wait, no, it only is Dark. Sorry, it is Dark. It only does once.
Yeah, it's only once, but you can bounce to reflect, and it's got added value. Destroys cards in shut and sandway areas, which might be relevant. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I misread
that's
it.
pretty cool.
Ryan was right.
Oh, is
I'm gonna grab it.
that one you have then?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
the rustling noise is me cracking packs in the back.
You got Valhalla boosters? What?
Yeah, he ordered like fucking 18 boxes because he's a fucking baller.
We can have a phantom draft in at some point when you come down.
Okay, that sounds excellent.
There were like
Wait,
20
no.
some pounds a box.
Really?
Yeah, Japan's crazy. I think it's because they like made too much of it in Japan or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Where did you order them from?
eBay from a Japanese guy.
Okay.
The
Right,
thing is,
make a
on the first,
Did you buy them all, or did you?
no, not all of them.
Oh, if you could send me a link, that'd be sick. Because that's really.
Sweet.
Yeah, the first one I opened, I got the ruler I needed for my day for Saturday, which is like, so I couldn't find it. Like, I actually couldn't find it. So I searched for like Force of Will trading group. You know how they all have the Crystal Commerce sites.
Yeah.
And then like went past on eBay on Google to like the 20th page when it's got like telling me because the guy's called Siegfried, so it's got loads of people telling me that about Siegfried Sassoon.
Oh.
I was like quick
Okay.
scrolling down and then Google. Oh, dang! I got another ruler.
So actually, I actually think the limited format might be fine. There are lots of bombs, but I reckon there might be like a good aggro deck. Spoiler alert. Basically.
Yeah, I think it's
There's
just
also
gonna be
like some counter spells. If there was good green aggressive cards, it'd be fine. But there are. Well, actually, yes, there are.
Yeah, I think the problem is you might be stuck out of like blue and red. Blue and red might just be a bit worse, and then you don't want to have be like stuck.
Yeah, if blue and red are just awful, it's like actually this is really bad. Did anybody open Valentina?
Yes.
Was it good?
Oh,
I
and
don't presume so.
I didn't play it.
Okay.
I
Oh, you
wasn't
opened
online.
it, but okay.
I haven't seen it. I didn't see it in play.
To see whether.
So I think it would be good. Like I could imagine it being very good.
The problem is if it's like blue's completely unplayable.
Yeah.
Either resonate like drill sergeant that like returns to your hand if you fuck it up. If it goes nope. It's all the blues cards with random downsides. Those are my favorite ones.
Right. Oh, pardon me. Are we ready to move on
There are so many unplayable blue cards in this set. That's it. Oh my god.
Yeah. We can move on.
Oh, Togetok. I still want to try Psychotog. If you open
Yeah,
any,
that card was dope in my pre-release deck.
if you open any foil puppet soldiers, I'm in.
My puppet soldier was
Big
non-foil. Non-foil. So, do we want to, Alistair? Do you want to lead AGP discussion?
Yeah, I can do.
So how shall I introduce this? There was Richmond and also
There's-
Asia Pacific is.
Yeah.
So there are also a couple of. I'll start that again without the sneeze.
Gag reel. Into the gag reel. Okay.
So there are a few tournaments that we want to cover from this weekend in terms of results and just having a look at the spicy new tech. There was the AGP Richmond and also the Asia Pacific Grand Prix. Alistair, do you want to have a little chat with us about what we saw from those tournaments?
Yeah, sure. So this is the last weekend of New Frontiers pre the Moonlit Savior. Now, so Richmond's literally just happened this weekend, just gone past. The Australian, it was in Australia, I believe. But the Asia Pacific Grand Prix happened last weekend, but the results, the deck list only started coming out on like Wednesday evening. So in Richmond, sorry, I'm just stating. In Richmond, the tournament was run by Ryan Miles, playing a Reflect red aggro deck. We've seen things similar before. He's playing Jund, as we talked about before, with a Simbat, Necromancies, and the green, and he's playing Little Red Hope of Millennia with grannies and apples to go with those. So the unusual things about the deck list, I guess, Granny's not really seen much play recently outside of the Adam Brawley engine, the Little Hope Granny like kind of synergy. So that's kind of different. But then again, they're playing apples. Then also he was playing a Sinbad, which we talked about before, kind of extensively, and how good this is at the minute with everybody playing robes. He's also playing 2 Elvish Bowmen to destroy, to do with bow and I guess other edition eliminators. And then he's got one of his own robes main deck, as along with a almost completely off-color Sign to the Future, where his only 2 sources, he can play it face down and use it that way, but he's only got 2 actual sources if you include Little Red, which you're never gonna name white on ever, I guess, in his deck. So that's the winning deck list. Moving on to the rest of the top 8, there's another red list here, with a bit of a Knights theme. Boarding to Bahamut. There's another red. This one's red, white, blue. Playing Guibas and Adam Brawley's like a red shell again with apples. Then we've got 1 Bahamut, which is sweet. It's not a Reflect ruler. Followed by Alice's World, a red green aggro deck, another Alice's World deck, and lastly another Grixis like aggro deck with Necromancies and Pumpkin Witches. Same old, kind of. It's what we're getting used to. So, the standout things here, there's a couple of new spicy bits of tech. We talked about Jund last week and how the Sinbads are actually just probably like one of the best cards to be playing. And then Bahamut top 8'd. Those are the interesting things coming out of Richmond, basically.
So they're your reflections.
Yeah.
That was truly terrible, Dan.
Very much. So I guess I'm kind of doing this in the wrong order, because Richmond actually happened after the Asian Pacific Grand Prix, where Jason Chung, who's a professional Magic player, won with Bahamut. I believe that this is the same list, or roughly the same. I'm just having a quick check through. There's some slight differences, I guess. The main deck seems to be the same 40 starting cards, and then the Stone deck's different, so he's splashing black for Flame to the Outer World. Discuss.
What was that? Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, sure. No, yeah. I was saying that the Bahamut list, that top 8 at Richmond, is very close, and I believe the same 40 starting cards to the list that Jason Chung won the Asia Pacific AGP with, which I'll go over in a second, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty interesting. Like the Baja list is quite cool because it kind of keeps not just because it does have Reflect. It does have Reflect in the 55 because it's in the sideboard.
Yeah.
But I think the reason it's interesting is because it is the deck that will keep the format super honest. Because if anyone tries to do anything untoward or get too cute with their mana bases, get to sort of try and rely on taking a bit extra time to set up their combos or things of that nature, the Split Heaven and Earth, Burn Spells, Bahamut deck is just gonna like push your shit in.
Go get you.
And like that's like the slight resurgence of it is probably due in part to the increasing popularity of the Alice's World decks, as we saw at Dallas the weekend before. So I'm a big fan of the list. It looks super sweet. I like the flames out of the board. I think that card's still great. I'd be tempted to play one in the main, but that's just me because I think, although I imagine I think that probably hinges quite a lot on how good your Valentina matchup is with the deck, and I imagine it's probably pretty good because you're probably just too quick.
Yeah, I mean, playing in the main deck doesn't. it's just a bit too narrow for what you want to do, where you don't have the filtering that Reflect can give you. You can just be a dead card, whereas all the rest of the cards do damage or kind of contribute to like actually just killing your opponent. The interesting thing is one of the interesting things about it is that it's well set up, despite being a red deck going into like a robes-filled metagame. You've got a lot of burn. You're playing Purifying Flame along with your 4 Thunders and your 3 Stonings. Sorry, 3 Splits. And then you're also playing Bahamut as your big, like, I'm going to hit you for like 2,000 before you can deal anything about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got the I just love the Guinevere Rock Egg engine. It's so powerful, and it's such an insane tool to be able to have in your aggro deck, because in terms of like most card games, one of the major pitfalls for aggro decks has traditionally been that you run out of cards really quickly, and that engine just ensures that you're going to have pretty high card quality, and also just pure number of cards is going to be really high. I'd be really interested to see if you could like sneak necromancies into this list, because it's got the color support for it. Whether it actually wants them is another question.
Yeah, the lack of being able to make your Lancelot 1,000 with a reflect trigger, I think, hinders this quite a bit. So I would be tempted in the board. So like when you're boarding in reflect, bring a couple in as well.
Possibly.
The problem with it is you need to have like wonderful 4.
I think it's a little cute for what you're doing, and without Guinevere, the card's actually just terrible. Because there's a lot of the time you're not going to have a Blackstone. And you just want to kill them dead as fast as possible. Like your Lancelot might not even be in play for more than a turn, depending on how the games go.
Yeah, that is a case of like the good old.
You just try to play like a streamlined, kill you as fast as humanly possible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks super good, and like I think it's very well positioned at the moment. Despite all of these main deck robes.
The other thing to remember is that a lot of the time you're not going to have like more than 2 stones in play. So where you're not going to be able to do things like cast. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd really love is to be able to access this pie chart that is in the article that you sent me, Alistair, but unfortunately it's been put in some kind of horrendous format where I can't enlarge the image, so currently it's just colours.
If it helps you, the decks are in Italian, so I mean...
Oh, I see. I mean, that does not help me.
So the big blue... we'll link an image of the pie chart in the article. It'll be really helpful. It's also, again, it's still in Italian, so you're... But the big blue bit, the bit that's more than 50%, that's Reflect. And then next down from that is Regatta dell'Abria. Yeah, I'm not going to try and read that.
Please don't try and butcher the Italian.
But the next one after that is Sylvia.
Sure.
And the next one after that is
Reflectors over 50% of the matter, blah, 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 cards. Largely irrelevant, because we knew that already. I think both the tournaments kind of show where the meta's developed to for this iteration of New Frontiers, and I'm sort of very interested to see. So, like, how do you think that these decks the decks that have been putting up good results in these 2 tournaments will hold up going forward into New Standard?
Right. So, like, as we've mentioned before, the meta at the minute's quite kind of inbred, where you've got like, these are the pillars of the format, these are the best cards to answer them, start jamming the answers in the main deck, start kind of reacting to that, and I think that's all going to get broken up quite a bit with the injection of some new cards, some new, in some cases, very powerful cards. There are a couple of other different things in Asia Pacific that I haven't touched on. Specifically, there's a Valentina deck in the top 8. It's pretty sweet. It's the, I guess, what's being known as the Valentina's World deck, popularized by, I'm gonna forget his name, aren't I? Jeff? No, it's not. Jeremy. The Dragon Master 007. He's done some coverage for ARG and playing quite a bit. I think he won one of the States tournaments over in the US. And the last, I guess, thing was there was a Grim deck in the top 8, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is
Yeah,
pretty
it's
sweet.
more traditional.
Especially for someone who's never seen a Grim deck before. Like, I obviously know what Grim does. However, I have never seen one get anywhere near the top.
Have you had a chance to play with Survival of the Fittest at all, then?
No, I also haven't played with Survival of the Fittest.
Oh.
So for me, this deck would be fun to have a little play around with.
This deck looks absolutely fantastic amounts of fun.
Grim is my favourite ruler that I haven't played with. This version looks quite a bit like what used to be known during Bahamut for was Bonsai Grim, but it was kind of like this shell, but you fit in Guibas. It was more like going on red-white. Obviously, you still get the cats because you can play them for blue and still have your red-white mana base, yada yada yada. But yeah.
Sweet. This looks super duper awesome.
It's a fun.
I think I have most of the cards for this. I might try and throw this together.
Have a bit of a.
What does Hamlin do? I can't read it.
Hamlin's sweet. So he's normally a 5 mana 1000/1000. When he enters the battlefield, you tap down on your opponent's creatures, and it doesn't untap. So you rest one of your opponent's creatures, and it doesn't recover until he leaves the field. So he's normally 5 mana, but they're really, really, I guess, quote unquote, not broken. The busted thing you can do with them is Tell Fairy Tale, which is 2 and a white. It's the card next to him in the deck list. Normally, it's such a Fairy Tale puts it into your hand. With Grim as your ruler, it puts it straight into play. So you can go turn 3, make this, grab a 10/10 the 1k Hamlin, tap your guy down, carry on hitting you.
Just keep bashing you in the face with all of your Fairy Tale, man.
You used to see back in with Green Grim where you could go turn 1 Elvish Priest, turn 2 Tell a Fairy Tale, get like a 10/10, lock your guy down,
Ooh, that sounds brutal, especially if they're on the Elvish Priest plan as well, and you're Elvish Priest, they go Elvish Priest, and you go, time to tap your Elvish Priest.
Have fun.
That sounds super grim. So,
oh my gosh. So I don't think that was intentional either.
No, I don't think he meant it, but he dropped it.
That's the subtle pun that is the deadliest, Alistair. You see, nobody expects it.
By the way, Alistair, we said a lot of puns.
Oh my god. There's so many. What was the worst one?
Some of them more.
There was about 8 million bamboo jokes. Lots of bamboozling going on.
The Mordred is like.
Oh yeah, the Mordred the traitor. It's like, you know that guy who's the law. You know when there's lots of him. There's Mordred.
What? I don't.
Are you playing sealed? As you seal
that one
and win?
Isn't funny or good on any level. I don't understand.
That's the best bit.
No, it's not.
I did shout, "This is not a drill" a lot when casting my drill sergeants, which was pretty fun.
I asked people if they're bad.
So this is not a drill where you go attack, reveal. Oh, he's in my hands. It was a drill all along. False alarm.
Jeez. So, I think in terms of sort of meta developing post these AGPs as we go into the new Frontiers format, I think Bahamut's going to be the interesting thing about Bahamut is it's probably just going to remain a staple deck because
it's just going to be good. Does a really good job of keeping people fair. It's hard. You have to play a lot of hate to really hear it out.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of from the new set that's going to be absolute nonsense is the tree. Is something that can legitimately fight Baha.
So, sorry, I'm just... Basically, I think the tree might be too slow. I don't know.
That's a worrying state of affairs.
Yeah, if the tree's too slow,
I mean,
it gets your guy for free.
I'm trying to think if there's a good way to deal with. So the problem is that how big's your guy? 15/15.
It's a 1500/1500 that you have to pay an additional 2 to target.
But that's only if it's targeting with spells, right?
Yeah.
You can literally just have your Bahamut just suicide into it really easily.
Oh, okay, sure.
Also, when he flips, he does. I can't remember that one. He does like damage equal to his power.
Okay.
So if you combine that with triggers from Regalia, it's actually pretty easy to just go nice tree.
Sure. So that's. I think that's. In that case, it sort of does go with what we were saying, that Baha's just going to keep people fair, make sure that people aren't getting too janky with their deck building, which I think is great because we see it a lot when Magic rotates its formats. Is almost exclusively the first big tournament, the winning deck is always a red aggressive deck. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Baha putting up numbers at the start until people work out what's actually going on and how to build like the perfect guild list or whether the observer deck's good.
Just to clear that up quickly, it is actually damage equals to the resonator banished. So like your best way to get rid of it, you kind of like put them down to 0 and then tree, like just kind of suicide your Vault God into the avatar.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
Another thing is Valentina is another deck that's going to be doing the similar sort of job of keeping the format even. Like hit and Bahamut, like when it goes in.
It's all about 20 Stone Vlad. What are you guys talking about?
Because one of the things that I actually really like about how constructed Force of Will is sort of put together is that there are quite a number of format pillars that you have to answer, or at least from what we've played so far, there's like you need to have an answer to the Lancelot decks, you also need to have an answer to the Valentina decks, and those I think those two especially will remain evergreen for the next coming of New Frontiers, and whether we get some other decks as well that will become the new format stable. So whether like the Observer becomes the new deck that you have to be able to beat, or if Gil is the new hot tech, as people are saying, then we'll see. Or we'll see whether Reflect remains the king amongst all rulers.
I think it's going to shift. I don't know how significantly it's going to shift, but I think it's going to shift significantly.
That was possibly the most ridiculous and non-committal statement I think I've ever heard, Alistair.
My name's Alistair. I'm running for office soon. Please vote for me.
Or don't.
About that article from
Well, that's the point, Alistair. Where are all the deck lists? Where are all the deck lists you promised our listeners? Where are your deck lists that you promised definitely maybe?
Have you checked? Wait. Have you... Call me maybe. Have you checked the email? I was going to ask.
Have I checked my email?
Did we get any emails?
Did we get any emails?
I'm going to go with a no, but... Yeah.
Just check. Let me go on the Gmail.
I'm going to go with no, but...
Are you ready? Are you ready to be excited?
If anybody sent something in and you haven't told me, I'll do it on the fly.
No.
No? Okay, we're safe. We're safe.
Only Podbean.
Yeah.
Only Podbean as messages.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Any deck from Podbean?
No. So shall we move into just talking about the Genesis tournament that's going on next week? Then we'll do like call out for deck lists, etc., and then we'll do just wrap up and finish.
Sweet.
Right, so let me just think about how I'm going to introduce this. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how Standard develops with obviously the new set releasing, but it's not just New Frontiers that we've got to think about. I know that Dan is planning on heading this weekend to a Genesis tournament over in Manchester. So Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about the Genesis format, what it's about, and what you're planning on playing?
Yep, so Genesis format is basically a singleton format designed to really challenge deck builders, is how it's built on the Facebook event page. And from like looking through it as someone who's quite new to the game, it has been quite a challenge trying to work out what to do and what kind of fun concoction I want to take. But yeah, so the rules are slightly different to normal, but not that much. So basically, any card is legal from any of the sets. 60 life total rather than 40 to start with. 6,000 rather than 4,000 to start with. You only play best of ones, and you're allowed a 5-card sideboard, of one of which card can be a ruler. You sideboard before the game starts, kind of. Basically, there's some decks where you get to put cards into play from your sideboard. Think kind of Valentina, but I heard there's something like a Pandora's Box style deck. I don't actually know how that would work, so I can't give you more information on it. But I think like Valentina, you only get to bring in one leader from your sideboard to show rather than all 5. I believe that because she's going to be quite powerful, as she gets to just tutor at whatever equipment she wants. But yeah, so that's kind of a very brief overview of it. So it's in Manchester, hosted by Fanboy again, I think. I'll double check that. And I'm planning on taking a Siegfried Dragon deck. For those of you who don't know, Siegfried the Knight Commander is a ruler from Dawn of Valhalla. Is J-activate for pay 4 and discard 3 cards from your hand. The colorless cost of dragons is reduced by 1 continuously while he's your ruler. On his J side, he has an Enter ability, where you may put any number of race dragon cards from your hand into the field. Bear in mind, you've just had to get rid of half your hand to flip him, so you won't have loads, but you will still get to put a load into play. And dragon race resonators get +2/+0, and you can pay 2 to pump his toughness by 3. He's a 15/8 when he flips. So basically, my plan is to ramp up as quickly as possible to 4 mana, and then throw a load of dragons into play and have some fun like that, because what's more fun than dragons and monsters? So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm playing a deck designed around dragons.
That sounds super sweet. So, yeah, as you say, the Genesis format sounds like it really rewards deck builders. I know that one of the really interesting things about the format is the cards from Valhalla are legal, and I know that some of you may have heard at some points in this recording some rustling. That is Dan furiously ripping through Valhalla packs trying to find various dragons and other nonsense for his Genesis deck. But yeah, it's a really interesting format because the card pool is so large that you have so many different permutations that you can try out and sort of develop. So obviously, it's a bit reminiscent of the Commander format that we play in Magic, where you have your sort of ruler as your theme, and then you have a broader suite of cards with which to complement it. So obviously, the dragon. What was his name again, Dan? Sorry.
His name is Siegfried the Dragon Knight.
Okay, so
that's just J ruler side. Siegfried the Knight Commander's the ruler side.
Cool. So Siegfried's obviously a really good example of that because he has his set theme, which is dragons, and you just want to be playing the dragons theme deck. So I imagine what's happened is Dan's gone onto the Forceful database and gone search for dragons and gone, which of these are the best ones I want to play and what spells complement them really well. Similarly, the Valentina deck, you can search for Regalia. There are almost certainly a load of old rulers that I have absolutely no knowledge about, but that have super awesome decks that you can build around them for this format. I imagine this is something that sounds pretty appealing to you, Alistair, in terms of brewing and building something super janky.
We need to start. Oh, we can start like EDH. Oh my gosh, this is a game designed for EDH. In fact, instead of Legends, you just flip already over. You already start on the command zone. So easy.
So
I'm all for singleton formats. Love it.
Yeah, like I really like the challenge of singleton formats because it removes a huge amount of the consistency from your decks, which means you have to. It's
not a challenge. You don't have to cut any of your sweet bottoms. You get to play all of them.
Oh my word!
You monster! You monster!
Yes, it reduces your consistency slightly, but whilst the consistency that you're getting while you're playing New Frontiers is super nice. You're not getting such a large card pool, and also some of the power level of the cards legal in this format is absolutely bonkers. I don't know how many of you guys have seen some of the cards from Valhalla. They are pretty crazy or pretty terrible. They're pretty polar in their effects. So it'll be really interesting to see. Unfortunately, I am working, so I cannot attend. I know that Alistair, you're attending a Magic event, aren't you? So you're not going to be able to go. But we look forward to hearing how Dan gets on with that. Hopefully, they'll get a decent turnout for that tournament. We'll almost certainly have an article and also some discussion for that on the next episode of the podcast. If you guys have got any deck lists that you'd like us to look at or any things that you'd like us to discuss on the podcast, feel free to email us at twilightwanderings@gmail.com, or alternatively grab a hold of us on Facebook via our Facebook page, Twilight Wanderings Podcast, or just alternatively grab us individually by our names on Facebook. We're usually all readily available. That's pretty much it for episode 3 of Twilight Wanderings. We hope you enjoyed it, and we will be back very soon. So from us at Twilight Wanderings, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
Keep wandering.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Cool. That was really good, guys.
You just single-handedly
Cheers.
annihilated half of our American listeners with that, Bonnie.
What? No, I can cut it out. That's why I did it at the end. The joys of post-production.
Producing posts.
You also get to have the bits where I start talking and then realise my mic's off.
Right. Cool. So
Oh, yeah.
that was really good.
Sure, because you meet yourself in Hangouts rather than.
Yeah, there's a few things I could say more about the Genesis tournament if you wanted to, or you.
So I think this should probably be pretty good. We've got just over an hour's worth of recording, so once I edit that down, it should be about 45 minutes ish.
Oh.
So I think that's ideal sort of podcast length, really. No one wants to be listening to something that's over an hour, so.
PK is 4 hours long,
Yeah, and people don't listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Unless they're you. Sure. So is there anything else that we actually?
I haven't listened to it. It's Kit to Wings, really. Yeah.
Is there anything else that we want to talk about, or just
That's not why,
have
obviously.
it edited in, or are we good? I think we're pretty good.
We didn't get a Barney Salt story from the weekend.
Oh, we did get a Barney Salt story.
I was
We didn't
pretty
get
sorry
one
that
of
I lost the final, mainly because it was to Luke.
We'll I'll
You're all
so
scrubs.
let's where's this hangout gone? Hangout. So we'll start.